Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Annalisa and this is Homemade Sunshine. So in this week's video, I'll be sharing my book haul, book unhaul, everything I've read for the past 2 months of January and February. So I've got my stack right here in front of me. All these books right here. There is a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 books in the past 2 months. Sorry, the lighting keeps changing, but I've read 8 books over the past 2 months, which sometimes I've read more than that. I don't feel like I've read a ton this month. There are some books in here that I didn't really love. I feel like, do you ever feel like, leave a comment below, that you get in a rut of like picking up books that you don't really like? I actually just read a book recently and finished it this March that I really didn't care for, and I'm already gonna go ahead and get rid of it without reviewing it because I really didn't like it. So even though I finished it, I was like, eh. So let's get started with these. First, we'll review the three, of course, good books. Mysteries of Martha's Vineyard. I read 3 more books in the past 2 months. Let's start with who is first. This is Thicker Than Water, and loved this book. We're joining Priscilla again, and what we're looking for is a missing family member. So it is super great. There's lots of twists and turns. Doesn't end exactly like how you're going to think, how you might think it will. And I really enjoyed it. I love Mysteries of Martha's Vineyard, the series so far, and I love any guidepost mysteries. Next is Swept Away, where a movie company wants to make a movie based on a tragedy that happened in Martha's Vineyard. I think this is all fictionalized, of course, but a tragedy that happened all these years ago, and the big mystery, there's like all these things that happened circulating around a big storm. So it's gripping. It's pretty crazy. All the things, it's very convoluted in a good way that I really had no idea where it was going to end up. So the ending was very satisfying because you were like, I have no idea where this is going. And then next is Bridge Over Troubled Waters. There is a missing woman in this story, and it's pretty wild. It has a good ending. If domestic violence is triggering for you though, then I would skip this one, to be honest. So it's not super graphic though, but it is brought up. So if that's something that's really sensitive to your soul, then I would, leave that one on the shelf. But next we have Until Leaves Fall in Paris by Sarah Sundin. And I didn't realize this was a historical romance. I don't usually read historical romance, but I really liked this one because I was surprised. It had a lot of romance in it, not anything that gets past a PG rating, really even just a G rating. I think there's only like a kiss that happens at one point. Like there's nothing else alluded past that, which I appreciate. I don't like when it gets into PG-13 or R rated territory. So this is about Paris in 1940. It is about an American ballerina who is running the, what is it called? Greenleaf Books, an American bookstore. And it goes back and forth with a man named Paul Aubrey, who is running a factory and is trying to, let's see, I don't want to spoil too much. Who is trying to go against the German occupiers in his own way. I'll leave it at that. I don't want it to be too on the nose. But it's a wonderful book. At times I was like on the edge of my seat, like what is going to happen next? What's going to happen? Good ending. Very good book. Really like that. Next is the book Queenie Peavy by Robert Birch. I had no idea anything about this book because there is no description. It's a very old copy of this book. It's a very old book. It's an old former library book, and it was copyright. It was 1966. I don't know what publishing this is. Might be published in 1969 is what I'm thinking. Printed in the USA. Very interesting. This was a very, it's a children's book. I would call it like an advanced YA, not for the language, but for the content. It's not a difficult read, but it is content. Can be iffy, but I think in a good way. It's talking about a young girl And the setting, I believe, is the 1960s. I'm gonna have to remember that. It's definitely set, you know, back in the day. But she is a tomboy who is she's up to a lot of no good. You find out that her dad is in jail, and that is a cause of a lot of her problems. And it's kind of one of those books that's teaching children a character lesson, morals, and that sort of a thing, because she's not getting that at home. And so kind of like how to present yourself, you know, because she's like a smart girl, but she's got all this anger built up inside of her because her dad's not there. They have a very difficult life. Kids at school make fun of her because her dad is in jail. And so when things start to happen, things get blamed on her that she might not have done. It's kind of teaching that character trait to kids about how if people think you're a bad kid and that you're going to do bad things, then they don't necessarily believe you when you are telling the truth, or especially if you lie a lot, they don't believe you if you're telling the truth that you didn't do something. So I think there's a lot of good lessons. It's got a good ending, good moral values, a lot of great lessons about how we don't have to be the same as our parents, all of that sort of stuff. So very good. Next was the Jane Austen Society, and this book was, I liked it. It was very hard at some points. There's a lot of big emotions. This is about Chawton in England. I'm probably butchering that, but where the final home of Jane Austen was, and a group of all these different people. A farmer, a young war widow, the village doctor, an employee of Sotheby's, the auction house. I don't know how you say that. A Hollywood star, a local solicitor, the anticipated heiress to the estate, and a precocious house girl come together and form the Jane Austen Society to try and save this house, basically, where her final place was, because at the time there is nothing set up to remember Jane Austen by, and a lot of the people who live there just think it's kind of like something they'd rather ignore. They don't care about Jane Austen. So there's a lot of very tough subjects broached in here. There's the treatment of Hollywood starlets back in the day, and if you know anything about what happened to young women like Judy Garland and people of that nature, that stuff happens, and it's really hard to have to read about it. So if that's something that, you know, men taking advantage of women sort of a thing, and not in like in the worst sense of me saying that, if you catch my drift. And there's a lot of loss, because this is set in the 1940s. There's a lot of, you know, tragedy, loss, really sad things. But I think if you like Jane Austen, which I've actually never read any Jane Austen, but it follows, I think, similarly the characters of being like deeply flawed people. And sometimes you're, as the reader, like, why can't you people see like what you should be doing? So it was good. Not my all-time favorite, but it was very good. I preferred the romance book Until Leaves Fall in Paris, but this was good too. So, there's also some reference to drug usage in this book. Not in a way that takes it very seriously, but if that is sensitive to you, then I would not read it. But drug abuse is referenced, so as more of a way of people coping with difficult situations. So next is The Paris Seamstress, and I don't really recommend this one. This is by Natasha Lester. The description really didn't let me on to how graphic parts of it are going to be, and it's very R-rated content in parts of this, and honestly extremely disturbing. I would not recommend it. I would not read it again. It goes back and forth between the present day character, who is the granddaughter of the woman who is from the 1940s, who is a seamstress from Paris, is able to escape to the United States. And there's a lot of secrets and history behind both of like how they're connected to each other and like their family history and things of that nature. And the family history is what's really difficult. And I think, if I remember correctly, that one of the characters in the book is actually real. So that's difficult. Let me see. Because I'm not going to worry about spoiling something that happened like 100 bajillion years ago. Okay, it's not 100 bajillion years, but you know what I mean. Something that happened like in the 1940s, I'm not going to be worried about. Yeah, they talk about Harry Thaw, Evelyn Nesbit, John Barrymore, and Stanford White as being real people and the things that happened amongst them. I wouldn't look it up. Don't look it up. But the things that they're referenced to doing in the book did happen in a lot of them. I mean, other things were added on top of that, such as kidnapping and abuse and honestly, some of the worst things you could ever imagine. And you would never have guessed that from the cover, from the back description, because it says like, proves just how much two young women are willing to sacrifice for love and family. I never would have anticipated all of this. And it's talking about Estella Bassett is forced to flee everything she's ever known. She's bound for New York City with her signature gold dress, a few francs, and a dream to make her mark on the world of fashion. So I thought it was going to be a very, not lighthearted because it's during World War II, but more lighthearted than it was. There was some deeply disturbing stuff, some deaths that were really horrifying. So, to be honest, don't read it. Don't read it. It's not good. And then last was 100 Days to Brave, Devotions for Unlocking Your Most Courageous Self by Annie F. Downs. This was actually a very nice book. This is what the pages are set up as. So it starts with a verse, it starts with the day, and then it has a Be Brave section at the end. And I really liked this. I think it's a really great book for, especially to gift to somebody if they're going through a big life change. Maybe they've just graduated high school or graduated college. They're not sure where they want to go yet. And it's talking about, being brave with where God has called us to. So, excellent. This is a great little devotional, and I highly recommend this. So we'll go back through the books. 100 Days to Brave by Annie F. Downs. Good book. Would recommend. You know how I feel about the Paris seamstress. I'm not going to recommend it. The Jane Austen Society. It was good. Not amazing. I would give it like a neutral rating. There wasn't a lot of stuff happening at times. Do you know what I mean? Just a lot of sad people and sad feelings. And so, yeah. Queenie Peavy. I really did like this. I think it's got great morals and values that it's being taught through not the lens of like the pious goody two-shoes child that does everything right, but teaching us these things from a child who needs redemption, which is, what we all need through Christ. So, Until Leaves Fall in Paris, loved it. Are there hard things that happen in this book? Yes, but not compared to the other ones. I would really recommend this one, especially if you like romance, but you don't like, what is the phrase, like the Fabian with like the ripped shirt and like the exposed muscles. If you don't want that kind of romance that's really, rated R. This is a good PG sweet romance. So, Bridge Over Troubled Waters. I really like this one. Trigger warning for domestic violence, but it doesn't go into horribly graphic details, and so that's fine for me, at least. Swept Away. Loved this, but a great mystery once again. And then we've got Thicker Than Water, The Search for Missing Family, and I really enjoyed this one. So, it's my haul for this month. Like I said, I'm kind of on a bad roll of like picking up books that I don't really enjoy and reading them. So I'm trying to get better about stopping them. The other book, I'll go ahead and mention it really quick in case, let me grab it really quick and I'll share it with you because I'm not going to share it in next month's video. I'm actually going to share two books recently. One that I finished and one that I didn't get finished. First is Jennifer Shiverini, Miss Lincoln's Sisters. So these are for March, but I'm not going to save these, so I'm going to just go ahead and tell you about them right now. I love Jennifer Shiverini's Elm Creek Quilter books. I do not like her individual books. This is the second one I've read now, and I've not liked them. This is about Mary Todd Lincoln, who does like struggle with mental illness and, as they say at the time, madness. And it's historical fiction where like all the historical points are correct, but they're just like ad-libbing people's thoughts and things at the time. And honestly, it felt like it never got anywhere. Do you know what I mean? And it was just kind of like a downer the whole time because you feel so horrible for Mary Todd Lincoln. even though she is kind of a menace, because she is unwell, but you feel bad for her in the modern sense of like that she just doesn't get any peace. So it's not good. I just didn't like it. And then this is Where the Heart Is by Billy Letts. I got to maybe page 40 and I stopped reading it. And I'll tell you why. And I like to do these warnings because sometimes I really don't like how sometimes you'll start a book and you just have no idea where it's going, and it ends up being extremely mature subject matter. And it's not like I'm not an adult woman who's, you know, currently pregnant and all that, but it's stuff that I don't want to read about. I don't want to read about explicit content in books. I just don't care to. And the explicit content in here was especially, I felt like, unneeded, to be honest. I felt like it was just added and unnecessary. So when it came up, I think more than once that quickly, I was like, never mind. I don't need to read this. I found it gross and unnecessary and slightly disturbing. So 2 books I don't recommend. And this is a New York Times bestseller. And from a Christian perspective, a lot of the times it feels like these really popular books end up being explicit or violent. And, you know, they're not exemplifying, you know, what I believe as a Christian to be good content. And I'm not saying you can't write about difficult things. And I'm not saying everybody's not writing for a Christian perspective. I totally understand and respect that. But it's why I appreciate publishers like Guidepost that are writing for Christian readers. So I just have to end on that note, which I hope is not too negative. I mean, this guy doesn't care if I don't like his book. He's a New York Times bestseller. He's totally fine if I don't love it. So just leave me a comment down below if you ever feel like you get into a rut of finding books that are just like not super great. And be sure to give this video a thumbs up and consider subscribing because I post these book videos every 2 months and I post a new video every week. Until next week. Bye.